I was looking at my favorite website to find stuff being given away by generous people when I found an ad for this free Bolens mower. Now, from the pictures included in the ad, it looked as though they were getting rid of items they didn't need anymore based on all the stuff for babies and infants. Now, there was nothing wrong with the other stuff, so my only hope was that this mower works just like the rest of the other stuff on the curb, and they simply didn't need it anymore. In today's video, we look at this Bolens lawnmower, and the problem is that I just picked it up off the curb and I don't know if it runs. Now, by the looks of it, I hate to say it, but it doesn't look very promising. But then again, I've been wrong before, so I'm not going to try to judge this one too harshly. Now, I'm going to try and repair this mower. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. Now, we're only going to mention what these other options could be. We don't have enough time to look into them, but if you need more information on these options, you're welcome to ask as many questions as you need to. Now, based on how this mower looks, the first thing I want to do is figure out if I'm going to waste my time even working on this mower. That means I need to hear it run for a test start. Now, before I do that, I need to confirm if there's any gasoline in the tank and if there's also any oil in the engine. Now, you'd be surprised to know these mowers are sometimes given away without the blade, and without it, it's very difficult to start. Luckily, the blade is still on this one. There was also some oil in the engine and there was some gasoline in the tank, but it looks terrible. Next, I'm going to put some fuel into the carb's throat and see if it will even start and run for a few seconds. Luckily, it started and ran for a few seconds, so that confirms that this engine has a working ignition system and enough compression from the engine, which means it's not worn out. That also means that this mower is worth fixing, and to be honest, these mowers are fairly underrated. They're very simple, and as long as the crankshaft is not bent, they should last for a long time with regular oil changes. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you'll know that I like to clean the stuff I work on, and the reason is because I want to keep my hands from getting dirty while filming. Now, cleaning a mower will also help it sail if I choose to go that route. I find that a mower that runs and looks new sells a lot better than one that works and looks fairly dirty. Now, cleaning a mower for sale isn't tough to do, but you have to be careful not to get water in places like the exhaust or the carb. I guess I didn't film it, but I did put plastic over the openings for the fuel tank and also the carb. That way I don't get water inside the tank or the engine. Now, the filter was covered in oil, so I don't mind it getting wet because I've got to clean it with soap and water anyway. Now, the cleaner I'm using is a degreaser from a store in my area, and more than likely there's one near you as well. In my opinion, it's the best degreaser I've had the pleasure of using. The only thing that I can say is that you shouldn't leave it on painted surfaces for too long, otherwise you could damage it. Now, this mower looks to be in really good shape, aside from being covered in dirt and grass, but it's really hard to tell because of how dirty it is. Now, once we get it cleaned, we'll be able to see if there's any serious damage to the mowing deck and even the wheels. Now, if the wheels had been damaged, it's easier to tell once we get them cleaned, but the bad news is if I do have to replace one or more of the wheels, I could end up not making any money on this project, so hopefully I don't find any surprises. Now, normally I would take this opportunity to lubricate the wheels as well, but I'd rather do that once the wheels have had a chance to dry first. That way the water won't get in the way of the lube. Luckily, from what I can see so far, the wheels and even the tires are in really good shape. However, if I had taken a better look at the entire wheel setup, I think I would have realized just how serious an issue I have on my hands. I'll talk more about that situation here in a bit. The mower now looks about 100 times cleaner than before. I don't have to worry about 1, getting my hands quite so dirty, and 2, I think it looks twice as sellable as before just after a quick cleaning with my garden hose. The first thing I need to do is drain the old fuel that's in the tank, inspect what came out of it, and finally see what kind of condition the tank is in. As you can see, the gasoline is extremely dark, which doesn't make any sense. Normally it would be shades of yellow or brown, but it would never look this dark. The only way it could get this way is if old mixed fuel was put in here somehow by mistake. Now, to get the last bit of old gasoline out of the tank, I'm going to have to use some paper towels. Unfortunately, this type of fuel tank is very difficult to pour out every last drop, so this is the easiest way. It's quite surprising, but it appears the tank is in excellent condition, which I wasn't expecting. Sometimes you'll find rust in a few spots, but I guess we got lucky on this one. While I have the mower on the table, I'm going to replace some missing nuts and bolts. I'm not sure why they're missing, but it's not a big deal. Although the hardware that's missing also includes some wing nuts too, but I'm going to use regular nuts instead. I'm also going to put some fuel in the tank as well, since I know it's clean. The fuel I'm using is 100% gasoline, which means it has no ethanol in it. If you can't find ethanol-free fuel in your area, consider using some additives to keep your fuel from going bad sooner than later. This also gives me an opportunity to show you an important tip about the primer bulb. Now it says I should only press it 3 times, but since this engine has not been used in quite some time, 3 presses may not get any fuel to spray into the carb. As you just saw, it took 6 presses just to get to the point where it would even spray any fuel. Now after the 6th press, the primer bulb should finally get some fuel in it, so it should feel differently when pressing it. It's only after that would I start my count. After cleaning the air filter that came with the mower, it came out pretty good, but sometimes the foam filter will break apart. If that happens, I would recommend replacing it. Also, the filters do not filter very well, so I'd recommend oiling it as well. I almost forgot I need to replace the blade after sharpening it. If you're unable to sharpen your blade, let someone else sharpen it for you. If you still can't get it sharpened, I would recommend replacing it. I forgot to mention it, but the main reason I cleaned the mowing deck was because it allows the mower to mulch the grass a lot easier, which then put less stress on the engine as well. Now after letting the water dry up, it's pretty apparent the paint is really dull. That means I'll have to help it out a bit. I'll have to let this dry for a while, and after that we'll then try to start it up and see if it runs on its own. Well, that was kind of dangerous. After getting it started, the engine over-revved. Now on this engine, it does have a throttle lever, and it looks like someone locked it in place to rev higher than normal. I have to wonder if the person who owned this before was using it like this. If so, I'm surprised the engine didn't break because these were not meant to run that fast. I'll have to unlock the throttle and try that again. So it is better. However, I think it's still a bit higher than it should be. Now to lower the engine speed, I need to look at the springs and see if I need to adjust its anchor. Now the engine was smoking quite a bit, but as you can see, there's some oil underneath the muffler, which means more than likely it's just burning the oil that might be inside it, so I'm not too concerned. Now, I don't see anything wrong with the arm for the throttle, so I think adjusting the anchor for the longer spring should fix the problem we're having. Now, after looking at the anchor on camera, I do think it's been bent out of shape, so I do have a feeling someone's been in here making adjustments. After getting the engine speeds where I wanted them to be, I tried to mow some grass with it, and to be honest, it did really well, but then again, it is only a discharge mower, so they typically don't clog up unless the grass is wet, but since it hasn't rained here in quite some time, the mower had no problems cutting it. Now, I was only trying to make some test passes, I wasn't trying to mow the area down, but as you can see, it did a decent job. So the engine started to smoke, but like I said, it was burning the oil that was still left in the muffler. Now after a few minutes, it was all gone, so it stopped smoking. Now if your engine continues to smoke, check your oil level and make sure it's not overfilled. Another option as to why the engine would continue to smoke would be worn rings and a damaged cylinder wall. Oil would be able to get past the rings and cause the engine to smoke out of the muffler. Now the fix would be expensive, so I would just live with it or replace the engine. However, the easiest thing to do would be to just buy a new mower. So in the end, all this mower needed was the old gasoline to be drained and replaced with fresh gasoline, along with a good air filter cleaning. Now, cleaning the deck was not necessary to get it to run, but it did make it a lot easier to use as well. Unfortunately, everything's not sunshine and rainbows with this mower. When looking at the front end, which is what supports the wheels, we soon realize we have a major problem. It turns out the cheap plastic is not holding up so well, so this might keep us from making any money on this mower. Unfortunately, this is where we have to leave the project, but in the next episode, we'll try to figure out how to deal with this issue, or if we have to come up with a different plan. So my question is, should I even bother trying to sell this mower? The reason I ask that is because this mower is the most basic mower ever made with the cheapest materials around. Is it even worth trying to fix what's broken on it only to sell it for a few dollars? Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.